Hello and welcome back to An Abundance of Books. My name is Julia and today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in November, which is quite a few. This is actually the most I've ever read in a month. I read 4,426 pages, which is a lot, and most of the books I have kind of middling feelings about. Lots of things that were good, but nothing that's going to end up being a new favorite. This is the very pitiful stack of physical books that I read. There are 2 of them. So a lot of audiobooks this month especially. I'm going to go through these in no particular order other than maybe the order of the things that I feel I have the most to say about. Sound good? Sounds good to me too. Let's try to not make this an hour long. The first set of books that I want to talk about are I Let You Go and Hostage by Clare Mackintosh. I read them in reverse order, but that's the publication order, so I'm going to be talking about them confusingly. I Let You Go is one that I've been hearing about for years, specifically from my mom. She really liked it, and so I was really excited to see what all the hype was about, and I think that it is a very literary thriller. The first half especially is basically just a literary novel about this woman making a new life for herself by the sea. You know, a very British story that I feel like we've heard before, but she is escaping her past. The book opens with the death of a boy in a hit and run and then follows a bunch of different perspectives around trying to solve the case. Who was the driver? Where's the mother? You get a lot of it from the detective too, which I didn't really like. Just in general, I don't love detective stories, but I learned at the end that Clare Mackintosh used to be a detective. So I think that it does lend an air of authenticity, if that's maybe something that you want in your thrillers, but I don't think it really saved it for me. Hostage, also one of the POVs there, is from a police officer, and I enjoyed that one much more. That one's also dual POV, but the 2 POVs are a husband and wife, and then, you know, a couple others sprinkled in there, and the husband is the cop, and I did enjoy him and all the stuff going on in his plotline more so than the wife's side. But back to I Let You Go, the one thing that I don't love about it, and I kind of have a problem with, is in the author's note she talks about how this was based off of a case of a hit and run of a child that was never solved, and she sort of fictionalized what she thinks might have happened to lead up to that, which is gross. Like, it's gross to use someone's personal tragedy for your fiction, especially like a stranger and a child. But I did end up liking I Let You Go in the second half. Another POV is introduced, which is the best one and provides the most interest in the story, but I ended up giving it 3 stars just because it's kind of boring. It's kind of boring and not very thrillery. It feels like a very mom book, which I guess is why my mom liked it. Hostage, my big problem with it was that there were too many POVs. The pitch is that there is the first flight from London to Sydney. I think that's right. And it's like a 20-hour flight and it gets hijacked. And so you're hearing perspectives from a bunch of people on the plane, but it'll just say like 2B and then 14G, and you'll hear from them, which I liked as just like a world building, atmosphere creating kind of thing. But then it turns out you do actually kind of have to remember who each of those POVs are, and it's not fun. Like I said, the cop line was interesting, but not interesting enough. I gave this one 4 stars, but I do kind of think it's weaker than I Let You Go, so maybe it's more of a 3-star, but it's also just like high action, really fun. I don't know if I'll be picking up any more Clare Mackintosh in the future. I think it would have to be a really buzzy book for me to want to. I was talking for way too long about that one. Let's try to make the next one shorter. I read Not a Happy Family by Shari Lapena. This is another thriller about a family who go to Easter dinner, and then the next day the parents both wind up dead. And the kids stand to inherit a lot of money from that. So you're also getting a cop POV investigating who they think might have done the murdering. But you also get POVs from basically everyone involved: an aunt, all of the kids, a neighbor, the housekeeper. There's a lot going on, and a lot of white people names, which is what I really didn't enjoy about this. There's like Tom and Dan and Jenna and Lisa, like very white people names, and it was really hard to keep track of like who was married to who and how all of these people were interconnected. And the POVs switched mid-chapter. It had very short chapters and then POVs switching without warning. It was too much. It was too all over the place. I remember trying to read another Shari Lapena book where they were all snowed in, and I found it really confusing with all of the POVs. And yeah, that's just kind of her thing, I guess. Really disappointed with this one. The mystery really wasn't that interesting. The people weren't that interesting. Like, it just kind of happened. I give it 2 stars. Let's talk about something I actually liked, maybe. I read Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman, finally. This is the sequel to Scythe, which I absolutely loved, and I know a lot of people say they enjoyed Thunderhead even more. I don't think that's true for me. I think the thing that I loved about Scythe was its discussion around mortality and death and all that stuff. It's about a world in which technology has advanced so much that people do not die naturally, and so there is an order of scythes whose job is to keep the population under control, and each scythe does things a little bit differently, and there's a lot of questions of like morality around that, and it's very interesting. This one focuses a bit more on the Thunderhead, which is the AI entity that controls every aspect of life outside of the scythedom, because they figured that's a good thing for humans to handle death, and then we can trust the AI to handle everything else. It just seems like a good separation of church and state. And so this book discusses all of the ways in which that can get a little messy. It's really great. It's a really fun follow-up. I loved all of the characters in it. There's some really interesting adventure in here. It's very high action. A lot of stuff is happening. And I give it 5 stars. I just think I do like Scythe a little bit better. And I'm very interested in what happens in The Toll, because I know the 3rd book, a lot of people really don't like it. And my assumption is that that is because I think there's going to be a time jump. And whenever there's a time jump in a series, it just doesn't work. If you're writing a book, don't put a time jump in it. We're not gonna like it. So that's just a theory at this point. I'm gonna have to actually read the book to find out. I also did this one on audio, and the narrator is absolutely incredible. I think he should narrate everything. He's just got such a distinctive voice for each person without it feeling comedic for any of them or like a gimmick. And then he just will drop a perfect Australian accent out of nowhere, and he's great. Then I read Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, which I can't believe was this month. That feels like so long ago, but I really enjoyed it. I definitely can see what all of the hype is about. I give it 4 stars. Like, I definitely understand it, but it didn't quite work for me in the pacing. Okay, so there's a couple of things here. So the story revolves around Amari, who is accepted into a secret society of magical agents. She's training to be one of them, and she's trying to find her brother who has disappeared and was previously a part of this organization. I feel like I'm explaining this really poorly. So it's a magical school with a training element. And so part of the way through the book, I figured there's too much happening right now. We're not going to solve the main mystery, which is, where is her brother? And spoiler, we kind of do wrap up that plot line, and then obviously there's more stuff set up for the sequel. But because I figured that was going to happen, I kind of checked out halfway through, because I was like, we're not going to figure it out. And the pacing on it felt very strange, because there would be long stretches where nothing happens, and then like catastrophic events, and then it gets kind of boring again. I will say the world building was all great, the characters were all great. I definitely understand it. It's just I think I'm a little bit nitpicky, and it's not my perfect middle grade, but I would still recommend it. Though I don't know if I'm going to pick up the sequel. I think if it gets good ratings, I will, because it's left off in a very interesting place, where the 2nd book will be very different from the 1st book. We're not going to be doing any magical school at this time. We're going to go, I don't know, save the world probably. Then I did a BuzzFeed Picks What I'm Reading vlog where I read 2 books. The first being Pizza Girl by Kyoung Frazier. And this was a very strange book. It's basically about this girl who is unnamed for most of the book. You get her name like right at the end. who is a pregnant pizza delivery girl, and you're just sort of following her life, and that's the book. In particular, she gets obsessed with this one customer named Jenny, who is older than her and is just sort of a chaotic mess that the pizza girl is drawn to, and it's sort of about their relationship. It's sort of about her dealing with her feelings about her dad who has previously passed. It's about how she feels about becoming a parent. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it is interesting, and I had a good time reading it, but I feel like it's just kind of a nothing story. There isn't really a plot to it. There isn't really a moral to the story. You're just kind of along the ride for 200 pages, and then you get off the ride, and you're like, well, yep, I did it. Not a bad book by any means, and I think there were some interesting parts, but I ended up giving it 3 stars just because, like, wasn't bad, wasn't amazing. 3 stars. The other book I read for that video was The Dating Playbook by Farrah Rochon, the second book in the Boyfriend Project series, which I really loved. I thought it was a really great romance. It sort of feels like Helen Huang light in a way to me. Maybe that's just me. This one in particular follows a physical therapist, and no, she's not a physical therapist. She's a personal trainer and an ex-NFL footballer who's trying to get back into the NFL, and it follows their romance, and there's some cute family stuff and some interesting representation around learning disabilities that I thought was well integrated. I will say this is the second in a series, and I do kind of think you have to read the first one in order to fully appreciate that one, but I give it 5 stars. I also read what might be the biggest book of the year, The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood, and yeah, I understand the hype. This is a Grump Sunshine romance. He is a professor and she is a PhD candidate, and they strike up a fake dating relationship. He is kind of a menace. Like, he goes a little bit beyond just grump or just bad. Some of the things that he does, he should get in trouble for, and the book kind of brushes them aside, but that's fine. I do have a whole vlog for this one with my spoilery thoughts if you want to go watch that. But I did really enjoy this one. The banter is cute. The pacing and the settings are all really well done too. And the conflict is interesting. And I don't know, I get it. I don't think it's the best romance I've ever read, but I do think that it has a good mix of hard topics and also like light, cute stuff. So maybe that's why it's got so much hype. I also read Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune. That's right? I always want to say good luck, but it's just luck. Natalie Tan's Book of Luck and Fortune by Roselle Kim, which was a strange time for me. It's sold as a romance, but the romance is the weakest part of it. It's about a woman who is returning to her hometown after her mother's death, and she gets reintegrated into the community and tries to open up a restaurant. It's very cute, and there's a lot of things about it that really work, particularly the neighbors are all really well fleshed out, and you really come to understand and care for the neighborhood, and you like hope that she succeeds in this. But the reason I didn't love it is completely for me reasons. It ventures into magical realism, which is something I don't enjoy, and it also goes into food. And I do kind of think food and magical realism are kind of hand in hand a lot of the time. That whole aspect of it completely lost me. I think that there is a story in there that I'm very interested in, but the way that it was executed wasn't bad. It was just bad for me. So I give it 3 stars, mostly out of respect. I was just about to say 2 more, I promise we're almost done, but we have these ones too, so 4 more, so hang in there. I read A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria. This is a romance between a PR lady and a gym owner. A lot of fitness romances, apparently. They were childhood best friends who had a falling out and are now reconnecting, and I really enjoyed it. This is also the second in a series, the first being You Had Me at Ola, and I think I enjoyed them both equally. Like, I'm trying to decide which one, but no, they were both really strong. This one is definitely a very steamy book, so know that, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a 3rd one, which is very exciting, and also the same as the Farrah Rochon series. Those are going to come out at the same time. Anyway, be proud of me for catching up on series. Are they romance books that are not connected? Yes, but give me some credit. 2022, I'm gonna read all the series, I promise. Then I read Take a Chance on Me by Suleikha Snyder. This is a short story about a woman who runs an Indian restaurant and a motorcycle bad boy. It's very short, it's very steamy, like half of the book is just sex scenes. It's really hard to talk about being that it was only 74 pages, but it had some very cute puns. The title is a pun and the puns carry throughout, you'll be happy to know. But I don't know, it didn't really do anything special for me. I gave it 4 stars because it was short and fun, but I think it's hard to do anything much more in 74 pages or 72, doesn't matter. Okay, now we're down to the last 2. None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney. This is one I was really excited about. I wanted to read it in October, but November, close enough. This is about a girl who is invited to join the FBI profiling department for a special project interviewing juvenile serial killers. The police think that they'll be able to get more out of the subjects if the interviewer is closer to their age than if they send in a full-blown cop, and it goes from there. The big thing with this book is, so it's basically Mindhunter. I know it's like a lot of things, but Mindhunter for me is the thing that immediately comes to mind. And the best thing about that show is the interviews. And this one, the first person that they go to interview, they skip almost the entire interview process, and I was really disappointed by that. But it turns out this book goes more to focusing on just one of the serial killers. Like, they interview that person multiple times and you do get to see a relationship with them, but it feels like such a missed opportunity to not include the interviews with all of the other subjects. That's just like the best part of this, and you kind of cut it out. But there is some really good stuff in here. It's really gross and gory and lots of serial killers, lots of triggers in here. So be warned, but if you are interested in the true crime genre, this might be for you. The other thing I thought was interesting, so in the blurb right here, it says 1982, Quantico, Virginia. But nowhere within the book do we acknowledge it's the 80s. So if you miss the blurb, you're kind of just like, that's a little weird. No one has a cell phone, but okay. So just remember it is in the 80s, though as a not historical fiction lover, that didn't really bother me. I think I give this 4 stars. I think it deserves 4 stars. Speaking of not being a historical fiction lover, I read The Last Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is a very interesting book. It's only just 300 pages and the author tries to put too much in here. There's 2 timelines, one in the 18th century where a woman is running an apothecary where she will serve poisons to women who are in trouble with the men in their lives. And then she's also following another woman, present day, who is investigating that woman. And it just wasn't necessary to have 2 timelines. I think there is a way to do it, but they can't be equally weighted. I think if you wanted to do the modern woman, you focus just on her and then have like little mini inserts from the past once she learns something to like confirm it for the reader. Or you cut present entirely and just focus on the past, which I think would have been my preference because the present woman is really boring. It's an interesting idea that I do like, but I didn't like that it takes place over about 3 days. There's just not enough time to get a sense of this person, and you're basically only focusing on one case, one job that she takes on. That wasn't as satisfying as a book like this could have been. I'm mad that I fell for the beautiful cover and paid money for it, but at least I read it. At least now I know. I'm giving it 3 stars. Okay, that's it. I feel like I've been talking forever. I hope that you enjoyed, even if it wasn't a very successful month favorites-wise. It definitely was page-wise, and I'll take what I can get. We're already into December. I've already finished a couple things. It's going really well, so I'm excited for this month. If you're excited too, hit subscribe, see what I have coming up. But thank you for joining me. I'm done talking. Goodbye.